Hello, for those of you just joining, we will get started in just 1 minute. And this is our fourth Canvas webinar, and we're going to be talking about Google Assignments. So again, we'll get started in just 1 minute here. We are recording, so we will continue to put this out on our Canvas webinar series page, and you'll see this video also on our Tech Hub, or you may be watching it as part of a class. So we're certainly recording and sharing out everything that we are creating with these webinars. All right, I have 2:45, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So this session is all about using Google Assignments in Canvas. So our last webinar covered using Canvas assignments. And remember, Canvas assignments, as Mike shared, is all about creating a place where students are submitting work. So when you create an assignment, you're basically saying that students are going to turn something in. There are different submission types that students can use, or you can set up as the teacher, and then you can get in and grade, leave feedback, and all of that in that assignment turn-in space. Today, we're going to be going into Canvas assignments, but we're going to be choosing the option to use an external tool, and then we're going to be bringing in something called Google Assignments. So what's the difference between Google Assignments and Canvas assignments? Well, Google Assignments feel a lot like the assignments inside of Google Classroom. This is a tool that's made by Google. Google knows that many schools and institutions are using LMSs like Canvas. So this is a way for a teacher to take an item from their Google Drive or multiple items and make a copy of that item for each student in the class. So just like that experience in Google Classroom, it is going to make a copy for each student, put the student's name on it, and then the way you grade and leave feedback in there is going to feel very familiar to you if you've used Google Classroom before. You can also create a Google assignment that just gives space for students to submit files from their drive as well. You can do this part in Canvas assignments. So we're really focusing on the use of making a copy of one or more files from your drive. Let's say a document, you want each kid to have their own copy, and then you want them to turn it back into you. This is the tool you would use. So we're going to jump in now. Let me go ahead and present. Today, we're going to be bouncing between a student account and a teacher account, so you can get kind of full experience of what it looks like from the teacher perspective and from the student perspective. So I am in our instance of Canvas, and I'm going to jump into one of my courses here. And just like you learned with creating Canvas assignments, we have one of two ways that we can create a new assignment. One way is if you use the tool called Modules, which allows you to organize your content. I could go right into a module, click my plus sign, and create a new assignment here. Or the way that I'm going to go in today, I can go over to my Assignments tool here, and then I can come in and create a new assignment by clicking my plus assignment button. So the first few steps are going to feel identical to creating a Canvas assignment because essentially you are creating a Canvas assignment that's using this external Google Assignments tool. So up at the top, I need to give this assignment a name. This is what students are going to see as the assignment name, if it's in a module or under assignments. So in this case, I'm going to have students submit some work with some notes and an essay. So I'm just going to call this essay assignment, notes, and paper. In this section, I can leave students some instructions. Instructions can go here or they can also go on the files that I bring in. Because remember, I've created some templates or some items that I want kids to work with from my drive. So maybe I kind of have some fill in the blank notes that I want students to be able to edit their own. And then maybe I want them to add a file. So I can include some instructions here, but do note those instructions could also be on my document. So I'm going to say, fill out your copy of the notes and add your essay. Okay, and again, you have all your tools here so you can make it look fancy and nice using that rich content editor. You can check out our webinar series on Pages for more information on how to use these tools, but you also have those. Okay, as we come down here, I need to give my assignment a point value. The main thing with the point value here is you're going to want to make sure that this point value matches the point value you're going to set up here in a moment on the external tool on the Google assignment. So I'm going to say 20 points. I don't need to worry about assignment group. I'm going to display it as points. Now, this is the most important / maybe the hardest part of the entire process, and that is selecting how we're going to set up our Google assignment. So as we shared on the Canvas assignment information, there are different assignment types, submission types that you can choose. We, in this case, because we're using the Google tool, it's external, it's outside of Canvas, we're going to be bringing it in. We're going to choose external tool. Then we're going to go here and we're going to find our Google assignment tool. So as I scroll down, I'm looking for Google assignments. And here it's going to say collect, analyze, and grade student work with Google assignments. So I'm going to click where it says Google assignments. And then it's going to come up and it's going to make sure that it knows I'm going to authorize. Now, when you do this, just so you know, when I pick an item from my Google Drive and I say make a copy for every student in my class, there will be a new folder created if it's your first time using the Google assignments called assignments, and that will go on both students' Google Drives and your Google Drives. And that's where all of this work is going to be saved, all these templates. So I'm going to press continue here, and then it's going to pop open. And this is where I put the details. You can tell that this is made by Google. It has a very Google look and feel to it. So first button here says check plagiarism or originality. We do have unlimited originality report access. If you turn this on, it is going to allow students up to 3 times to run a little check. It'll look at their work and compare it to other work out on the internet. And it will also compare it to any other work that students have turned in using this from our district. But they have to use this tool. We'll start to build this repository. You can find out more information about this on the Tech Hub, but I have the choice to turn on originality reports. Files. So this is where I'm going to pull in files that I want to make a copy for each student. So I'm going to click attach, and then it's going to bring up my drive. In this case, in this assignment, I have some fill in the blank notes that I want students to have a copy of so that as I'm maybe talking to them, they can fill those in. So I'm going to add those. If I wanted to add additional files, I can do that here as well. So if I want to make a copy of 3 items for them on this one assignment, I could do that if I wanted to. In this case, I'm just putting the 1, and then I'll have students go ahead and add an additional item from their own drive as well on there. Points. This is where I said the points need a match. You can always go back and edit, but we want to make sure, it even tells you here, make sure that the total points and due date match what's in the LMS, which is on that previous page, which we're going to get back to. So I'm going to say 20 points. I'll go ahead and add a due date here. We don't have to add a due date. If we don't want to, we'll do tomorrow. If you want to add a Google assignments rubric here, you can do that. So if you are familiar with grading and using rubrics in Google Classroom, this is the same system here. You can create a new rubric. You can reuse from any other Google assignments you've created in your other Canvas courses, or you can even import from Sheets. So if you're interested in doing that or need any more information on that, feel free to reach out to your tech coach. But if that's something you've used in the past, you can certainly do that there. Now that I have this set up, I'm going to click my Create button, and it's going to save my information. This is the part that's probably the most confusing out of everything, because you did it and you're like, what am I supposed to do now? So you're going to press select again, and you know you've done it right if you see a link fill in the blank here. So I see a link, so I'm good to go. I can choose so that when students click it, it opens in a new tab. I'm not going to click that. That's kind of up to you. Moving down to the bottom, we want to make sure our due dates match. So I said at midnight on Friday the 9th, so I will leave that there. I can, of course, change this at any time if I want. Okay, my point values match. I have that there. I have my instructions. So I am ready to now save and publish. And when I do this, it's actually going to load the Google Assignments tool, and I'm going to see it sitting really nicely right here. So as this loads, you're going to see here is my teacher view of this particular assignment. I can see here my points if I need to edit them, my due date if I need to edit it. I see my file that's attached here. There's no rubric. So I see that all there. Now that we've done this part, I want to jump over to the student perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to actually my son's account here, and we are going to jump into assignments. And I'm going to go into that assignment that I just created here. And this is what it looks like from the student perspective. So in just a second here, because it's the first time loading, it takes just a moment. In just a second here, I am going to see that Oliver has a copy of those notes and the instructions. So this is what it looks like from the student perspective. So the students are going to see the point value, they're going to see the due date. They also see it up here because they match the ones I put in Canvas. This is why it's important to match those two. And then I can see there is a copy, and look, it made a copy and put his name on it of those notes. I also have the ability to attach other items as a student, because remember, I'm asking the students to do the notes and attach their paper. Let me show you what it looks like when I click to open the file. This is a pretty cool part about Google Assignments. And if you've used Google Assignments in the past with Canvas, this is an improvement that they've made. So now I'm on these notes, right? This is Oliver's copy, and he's ready to type into them. So he can come in here and type or motion. Here's the neat part. Now I'm going to jump back to the teacher perspective. And here's why I want to show you that. This is really helpful, and it's definitely been a request. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page. It's definitely been a request from teachers to have this. So here's Oliver, and when I click on it, it's going to open up. This is going to look very familiar to you if you've used Google Assignments inside a classroom before. It's going to open up Google's Grader, but here's the cool part. I can leave feedback and watch Oliver complete this live. And even though he hasn't submitted yet, this is a great way to check on progress before submission and leave feedback. So I can even jump in here, right? And I can click and leave a comment bubble and tell him to check grammar. Okay, click comment. And then if I jump back over, right, to Oliver's side here, I'm going to see that comment. So even though Oliver hasn't submitted this yet, so even though the student hasn't submitted this yet, we can have a live check-in on how they're doing. Now, the student, as soon as the student opens their assignment, then you have that ability to go in and check their progress. So pretty cool. Now that we're back on Oliver's side, let's go ahead and have him submit this work. So what he's going to do here, we're going to go to open, to attach, and submit. So he does need to complete this step. He needs to click. So the student would need to click here. Here is the file that was made, we made a copy of. Note this file is also on his Google Drive. So if we went to his Google Drive and went in the assignments folder, we would find that there. But notice he can also add files. So students can also add files from their drive, or even create a new doc, sheet, or slide to add. I'm going to go ahead and also have him submit an essay here. So let me find an essay, and we'll have him attach that essay as well. Okay, now he's ready to press submit. It's letting him know you're going to submit these two. And just like Google Classroom, kids need to press submit to show you on your side that it's been submitted. And then students can also, if they need to go back and change something, they have to press unsubmit, make their changes, and press submit again. So now that he has submitted, let's jump back over to the teacher side. I'm going to go ahead and leave this grader for a moment. I'm going to click my back button and go back to the assignment. Okay, and let me close here. And let me go ahead and refresh. So now that Oliver has submitted, we should see here that he has submitted, which we do. So we see his status is submitted. One thing to note, if you are someone that has used Canvas in the past, One thing that Google Assignments does not have yet, however, it's supposed to be coming, is the ability to use Canvas's native speed grader. So currently, if I were to open Canvas's speed grader, it would not load this in a way that would be functional for me. It would actually end up opening in a new tab and taking me back to Google's grader. So just so you know, you have to grade in Google's grader on here. So what I'm going to do to see Oliver's grade and give him some feedback, I'm going to click on his name here, and then it's going to give me that same view. It's going to open up my grader. Again, if you are a Google Classroom user in the past, this should feel very familiar to you. So let's explain then how this works. So here I have Oliver's work on here, and notice I have both of his files here on the right, so I can click between the two. I can go in and leave feedback by leaving my comments. Okay, so I could just click a comment bubble, leave some feedback. I can also use the comment bank. So if that's something you're familiar with, you set up a bank of comments. This is especially helpful if you notice students are needing the same kind of feedback over and over again. The cool part about it is once you click to add to the bank and you add a bunch of stuff, when you come in here and you click your comment bubble, here's a little tip for you. If you put in the pound sign or the hashtag sign, it brings up your whole database of your comments, and you can click one and click comment. So pretty cool. So throughout the entire piece, you have the ability of students' work to leave comment bubbles, to type on their work, to leave suggestions. Then I'm going to come down and give him points. If I decided to add a rubric to it, it would also have the rubric down here for me to click through. Overall feedback is kind of like leaving the private comments in Google Classroom, but this is going to show right up when the student clicks back into the assignment. The student will see that overall feedback right there. The specific feedback, the comments bubbles that I have, or any changes I may make on the document or the file, the kid is going to have to open to see those. So overall feedback, I could say, great work. Please resubmit your essay, or whatever I want to put on there, I can and do that. So now what I need to do in order for Oliver to see this and students to see this is to press return. And then I can press return. Now, if I graded multiple, I can wait to press return so that all of those are returned at the same time. Now, in Canvas, what this means is when I press return, it's also going to fill that 20 out of 20 into the Canvas gradebook, which means I can then do the grade pass back to our student information system. So I'm going to go ahead and press return. And then, of course, if I needed to go to the next student, up in the top left-hand corner, I can do a drop down to jump to a student's name, or I can use my little arrow here if there was another submission to go back. Now let's jump back over to the student side to see what that submission looks like now that I've given some feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, and I am going to refresh here now that we've submitted so that we can get some feedback. So from the student perspective here, it says our grade. Okay, so I got 20 out of 20. So if Oliver is looking at this, visually, he can see that there are 2 comments that he can check out by clicking. And then finally, that overall feedback is sitting very nicely right here at the bottom. So it's easy to view that feedback as well there. So all of that feedback, its status and everything is just sitting there for the student to look at. So now let's jump back over to our teacher perspective and jump back out here. And let me close and close. So here again, we have just that teacher landing page. If I needed to jump back into a student's work, I could do that here. If I needed to check any details or anything, that's here. And then finally, that 20 out of 20 again is going to fill into your Canvas gradebook, which means you can then pass that back. So again, in this session, we learned how to use Google Assignments. And again, speaking to Canvas assignments versus Google Assignments. Google Assignments makes it very easy if you want to make a copy of an item for each student. If you are familiar with and very comfortable with the grading system that you used in Google Classroom, this is a great tool to use because it gives you that familiarity piece. If you're really heavy in working and checking on student progress before they submit, this is another great way to do that because you'll have access to jump into their work. If you've made a copy of the file for each kid, even before they submit, I can jump on here and check progress. If I wanted to check on his progress, I can do all of that right on there. I also have the ability to add my Google Sheets. If I want to import from Sheets or pull a rubric, I can do that on here as well. Again, looking to the future, we should see the ability, if you really love how grading works in SpeedGrader, or maybe you have an iPad that you're grading on and you really like writing on top of the student's work, we should see that coming out at some point soon, which will be a great addition to the Google assignments. So thank you all. I know I finished a little early. Thank you all for joining in to take a look at Google Assignments. Let me stop sharing here. As always, if you have any questions through this process, please check out the Tech Hub, reach out to your tech coach, and let us know if you need any support or help. Thank you all so much for joining.